Hi, Iowa City. You're watching Education Exchange on PATV. I'm Katie Kuntz, here with my co-host, Hani El-Khadi, and our guest today, Kate Moreland, the Iowa City Community School District Director of Communications. She's going to talk to us about just about anything we can think to ask her. Hani, would you like to take it away?
You were right. She's ready to answer any of our concerns, and we have about 1,000 questions, Katie?
I think about 1,000 for
Okay.
you. Great.
How much time do we have, Michael? I think he said 30 minutes. So you're going to be bombarded now with a lot of questions and parents' concerns and so forth. But to begin with, we met last time here in June. And you began the year with us last year, and you ended the year with us here. And you were really very honest, giving us the best that you can. And then we are going to catch you now and say, well, you said that in June. What happened to this?
Okay.
And before I start, I have actually to compliment you with this report, because this report is, although I work for the district forever, but we always publish the reports, but they are always very difficult to understand, unless you are really professional. You can get the graphs and all that analysis, statisticals, median, and standard deviation of the mean and all that. And suddenly we have this beautiful display of everything that you did and all the activities that you, in a very simple way. So this is very informative, and I know that this was published in maybe spring, and that you are preparing another one, so parents can get this either from where they can get it.
It will be available at your schools online. We'll send a link out to families, and then at the district office. So it'll be on our website.
And this updates parents and audience in general with all what you have achieved and you are planning to do.
Right.
So, Katie, where you want to start with?
Well, I found it to be really very interesting under the district composite score. And I'd like to read the statistic. The state composite ACT score we're talking about was a 22.1, where the national composite is 21.1. So the state of Iowa is performing better nationally. But this district is scoring 25.4. That's pretty dramatic. Well, what is happening? How are we scoring these things? What are you doing to prepare students for college and for taking their ACT?
I think overall we just have two very, very strong high schools. I think I want to say over 85% of our kids go on to post-secondary education, and so they're in classes where they're preparing for that, which also prepares them to take the ACT. I think our courses are rigorous, and we do have, and I think this year it's 25.5, so we even eked up to the highest we've been. So we have a lot of very bright kids and just a lot of kids that are driven to go on to school after high school. So it's an important test.
What are some of those programs that prepare your high school students for graduation, but also for college and that kind of thing?
We have a lot of AP courses, which allow kids to get college credit in high school, as well as concurrent enrollment classes. And we see kids that are taking multiple AP courses during their high school years in an effort to gain college credit, and are really on track to start college off with some of their credits taken.
But it almost seems like you start even younger than high school. Is that right?
Yeah, I have an 8th grader, so I can say that already we were talking about in junior high what are the classes to take so that she's going to be ready for high school, and I would say even our junior highs are challenging and prepare our students well for high school. So yeah, I really believe in 7th, 8th grade you're starting off really focusing kids on what their goals are and what they want to achieve through their school years, but also through their careers. So
I've also noticed can you describe a little bit about your partnership with the Kennedy Center?
So with the help of Hampshire, we applied for an Any Given Child program through the Kennedy Center, and we were selected as one of the 8th city, so we joined cities like Austin and Portland, Sacramento, Sarasota, so some pretty impressive communities. And the idea is the Kennedy Center came in all last year and worked with the community arts team to allow us to assess how much arts education is happening in our schools, K through 8. We surveyed teachers, principals, we did a lot of data collecting and found where we have some gaps in the disciplines of theater and dance that we want to see expanded in those grade levels. We talked extensively about integrating the arts into learning. How can we better prepare our teachers with some professional development to make that possible? And so we're at a place now where we're getting ready to fundraise for that program with the foundation's help, and they will be hiring a coordinator to help coordinate all of those arts activities throughout the district.
And this pamphlet is about any given child, right?
Right.
And it has actually, again, very simple information about what you did and what you're planning to do. And that's where we talked about in June. You promised that you are going to update us later of what happened. In this part, as Katie figured out earlier, that I don't understand very much how do you coordinate Hampshire with the school and Kennedy together? How?
Well, Hampshire applied for the Kennedy. They do a lot of work with the Kennedy Center. Hampshire does.
Okay.
So they saw this as a program that would benefit our school district, and they helped, along with the superintendent, to apply for that status, and we were selected. Hampshire does a lot, especially after the flood. They come into our schools and do performances. They're working with students right now on a bullying play that's going to, later this month, be shown at, I think, all junior highs and possibly the high schools. It's a video on cyberbullying. So there's a lot of partnerships that have been happening. We're just trying to make sure they're happening district-wide and that we're covering all different grade levels with opportunities in theater, music, art, visual arts, and dance.
And again, in June, we spoke a lot about school safety and all the security measures that you're planning and all that, as well as bullying. Today, just by chance, I was listening to NPR, and there was a program about bullying. A lady was talking about it, and she said bullying is a campaign that's organized by someone to harass and prosecute some other person, which was really beautiful. The word campaign, that you plan for it and you start executing it in steps. We have. What do you think, as an educator and administrator, why do you think we are seeing more bullying than ever now?
I think with our communication tools, students have a lot at their fingertips where there's not, they hide behind the screen, I always say. They're able to hide behind their phone, they hide behind their computer. And there's some tools out there that I think make bullying easier for students, that they can do things anonymously and think they won't get caught. And so I think it's all about educating our kids on internet safety and reporting bullying and not just being a bystander. And a lot of parent education. There's a lot of tools out there on the internet that parents don't even understand what they are. We're kind of beyond Facebook now into Instagram and all sorts of other apps that are out there that students are well versed in, but parents aren't always. So we just have to keep having a conversation because technology continues to change.
And I think it's unfortunate that when we talk about bullying, we have to also consider the safety risk that sometimes can go along with being tormented or even being a bully. And last week there were 4 mass murders in the United States, resulting in 26 deaths in 4 days in a row. And today at Iowa State, a University of Iowa State student was shot, and he brought a gun to campus. And I wonder what is the school district doing to protect against gun violence specifically?
Well, we have trained all of our staff to date on violent intruder training. So all of our staff last year went through that training so that they can think about if there is a violent intruder. We used to always say lock down. That was the modus operandi. You lock down your room. What we've learned through that training is it's very important to get out of the building with your students if it's safe. And so staff has really been trained to look at different alternatives and to reassess. And right before school, prior to students coming back to the building, we had drills, mock violent intruder drills, with the cooperation of all the police departments, Iowa City, Coralville, University Heights, North Liberty. And they helped the staff actually run through violent intruder drills. And I think our staff, I know I attended several of them, really found them, while it's unnerving to go through a drill like that, I think they thought about their room differently. They thought about student safety and what are the different ways they can get out of their room safely. So again, I think that's a training issue that you just continue to have to, unfortunately in this day and age, practice.
Now you mentioned that it used to be lockdown, and that's still a part, but can you kind of explain why or how it's changed, how our understanding of what lockdown is has sort of changed?
Right. Normally when there's an incident going on in a school, an announcement will come over saying that the building is being locked down. And that was often to have teachers lock their doors and stay in place. But what Virginia Tech and a lot of other instances have shown us, including Connecticut, where there's heroic stories of teachers getting kids out of classrooms, that by choosing to assess the situation to determine where the intruder might be and if there's an opportunity to get your students out of the building, we're just changing the way we universally look at things. And the officers were very clear that, what might not be okay 1 minute, if the intruder goes the other direction, you might be able to get out. So you constantly just have to reassess. And that more lives are saved when there's an effort to get out of the building.
And I am familiar with this same training, this VIST, Violence Intruder Survival Training, and the ALICE, I think we mentioned, alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And I think that it is interesting. Part of the lockdown, what I recall in these elementary schools, is just to make sure you keep account of all the children.
Right.
And so as long as you can make sure that everybody is accounted for, escaping or evacuating is what the word they use.
Right.
Is the way to do it.
And yeah. And in this, even just having the teachers practice opening their windows and it's not something that we always practice. And doing the drill at the beginning of the year really gave teachers and principals an opportunity to make sure their buildings were secure the way they should be. Running through those drills, it felt very real, and there were some things we could fix then after that, things that we noticed during the training that were fixed.
And your teachers should be aware of things like which number of room am I from the corner, or where in the building is our classrooms, and you can tell them things like that.
Right.
And do you feel like your teachers are aware of those kinds of things?
I do. I think the awareness, and several of them had said they weren't sure how they'd react, and it's important to know too what kind of reaction you might have to that. Are you going to be a leader in that situation, or are you going to be someone that is going to be more of a follower and listen for instructions? And it's important for the principal to know who in that building is a resource, because the principal oftentimes is on the kind of the front lines. So, others have to step in.
Well, let us move now to the master facility plan. And again, you promised that you're going to update us with what's happening. But before you start, there was some anxiety in the community because in the middle of all the conversations and the discourse about this whole process, the elections for the board of education came. I don't know if this had any impact on the planning. Did it take you back a little bit? Was there any changes that was brought in by the new board, or they continued what the old board did?
Well, the board in July passed the 10-year facility plan, which is extremely exciting for our community. We have a map going forward of what's needed, and it includes, new buildings, renovations, all the things we know need to happen throughout the district. That was done prior to the election, and then after the election, what the new board is working on is how to phase that plan in, what order to do things, making sure we're reaching our older buildings, addressing air conditioning, safety issues, and really planning out the order in which we'll be able to do that. We can't do everything all at once, we know that. And so this current board is working on that part. And so they really just, kind of picked up where the old board left off. And I think we're getting very close to finalizing that. They'll address it at their next board meeting. And the hope is that we can move forward with the projects. Penn and Twain are two of the first ones that are going to begin work in the spring. And I know the staff and the parents and the students are excited at both of those schools that have needed attention and are going to get that.
How about the decision about the fourth high school?
That the board did approve the opening of the new high school. We're still looking at timing of that and when, so they haven't finalized exactly what year it will open. But yes, we're at a place where our numbers are such that we know within the next 10 years that it's going to be necessary to have that high school. So I think right now they're looking at around 2020 of when that might open. And then how it will be utilized between now, if the construction starts a little earlier, we need work at West High done as well, and so there's a possibility of using it kind of as a transitional space.
I see Katie is
We've got
ready.
the student population is right nearing 13,000 students. Do you think that's is that projected to continue to grow?
Yes, we are projected to grow about 3,000 kids in the next 10 years. So we're growing anywhere from 250 to 400 kids a year is the projection. So it is definitely going to be something we're going to have to stay on top of.
And you mentioned before that there would be possibly 2 new elementary schools coming in.
Right, the plan calls for 3 new elementary schools.
3, okay.
One on the south side of Iowa City, one on the east side on American Legion Road, and then one up in North Liberty, near actually the 4th high school site.
And when are those supposed to be completed?
Well, that's in the phasing plan, and it hasn't been determined exactly, but the elementary capacity is definitely a priority, and so the board is really considering, we have the land purchased, how quickly can we alleviate some overcrowding. Grant Wood is extremely overcrowded. We have kids in, I believe, 7 temporaries outside, which is almost an entire elementary school. So it's beyond time to address that issue for those kids.
And when you talked about renovating Penn, right, and Twain, we know, and you and I talked about a little bit earlier, that some of these plans for extra buildings might give us other options for new curriculum. But do you think that the construction might interfere with learning?
Well, our physical plant director, Dwayne Van Hamert, who has done this at many districts, is really focused on making sure we don't interrupt student learning. Some of the options are, there's what they call 10plexes, which are kind of an outside school. It's a temporary, but they're all connected, and there's restrooms. And I think that's what they're looking at doing at Twain. So the school will kind of move out into that facility while they're working on the classrooms. We're also looking at using another space possibly to transition kids into during renovations. Longfellow, Mann will need significant renovations, and it will go much quicker and be much safer for kids if that happens when kids are out of the building. So there are plans in place to address that issue, because as a parent I think that's an important consideration.
No, as I sort of mentioned, you talked about some of the different curriculum options that might be available once these new schools, once these new spaces are available. Would you like to expand on that for our audience?
Well, the board has discussed the possibility of they call magnet program or school choice programs, and they're going to be actually I think discussing that this week at their education committee meeting. But they're really just looking at what are the opportunities as we gain space in our district and have the capacity. And the diversity policy often plays a role into this, because we are looking for ways to naturally move kids around the district. And having specialized programming is one way to attract parents and families to schools to try to balance that demographic.
And when you talk about diversity, I also have here that there's approximately 40 different languages spoken throughout the entire district. And earlier this evening, we heard, I guess I'm not sure how our viewers will see it, but we got to hear from a couple different students, and the Horn Elementary School that just had their international night, and that elementary school in and of itself has 24 different languages spoken. How does the plan for the growth encompass these kinds of the diversity of your students?
Well, I think we need to continue training on cultural competency and making sure our staff are well versed in the different cultural backgrounds that we have throughout the district. I know we have a lot of groupings of students, and so my kids go to a school where there is a very large population from the Sudan, and I think it becomes almost an educational opportunity in and of itself to be with kids from different areas of the world. They gain so much from those interactions. And so as a district, I think we need to celebrate it. We need to make it part of the learning. Having international nights or UN days where you really do celebrate the different cultures is an amazing gift to give an elementary student, I think. And so we'll just continue to do those sorts of things to expand our horizons.
How about the Kirkwood Regional Center? What happened there and where we are now?
Well, the Kirkwood Community College is collaborating with the University of Iowa. So it's actually going to be called the Kirkwood Regional Center at the University of Iowa. This is the first partnership like this, we believe, in the nation to actually have a university and a community college partner on a facility. And it really will provide opportunities for career paths for students, career academies, and not just for our school district, but for some other surrounding school districts that don't have that opportunity. It'll open in 2015, and students may choose to spend part of their day out at that facility at the research park to be able to take some of those classes, anywhere from engineering and STEM opportunities to welding and auto tech, things that are really expensive things for a school district to have the right facility for. But when we pool resources like this, we can have state-of-the-art facilities for all this area schools.
Talk to me about the foundation and their efforts and the success.
Well, our foundation, we're very lucky to have the support of the community, and the foundation is really the catalyst for making that happen, connecting the community with what the needs of the school district are. We just had some recent programs that they fund that reach so many students that every year it amazes me. The visiting author came this year to all of our elementary schools, 3rd and 4th grade, got to meet with her, and that opportunity really is about teaching kids, the art of writing and authoring a book. They get to ask her lots of questions and spend time with her. And then also School of the Wild, which is a partnership with the University of Iowa and the University of Iowa Community Credit Union. Hillsbank sponsors the visiting author. And so there's so many great, I guess, extras, other learning opportunities that the foundation is able to provide support for.
Wonderful. And I see here in some of the notes that you provided us with the technology campaign, the $2 million.
Yes. And that was huge. That wrapped up in the spring. And they, in a matter of a year, were able to provide the funding for us to put smart boards, projectors in every single classroom, which is over 1,000 classrooms. And I can tell you from personal experience, I mean, it changes the learning environment for your kids. Teachers tell me, I don't know what I did before I had the
So you
smart
expect more excellence now?
I think,
You
yeah, I
have,
think it's, yeah. And
quickly,
kids
in a minute or less, can you tell us about the achievements of the district in the last?
Well, Katie touched
Yes.
on our
Yeah.
ACT scores,
Of
which
course.
came in this fall even higher last year. Our award-winning newspapers, both high schools, speech and drama. We have all-state music celebration coming up. I think there's over, I want to say 95 students selected in the state of Iowa, which is, I think, more than probably any district.
Any district.
So yeah, and
As
we
well
have
as
both
the
high
Grammy,
school.
the Grammy
Yes,
Awards.
there were
yeah.
Grammy Awards. We have 2 high schools playing playoff football games as we speak to go to state, and so yeah, I always say there's more than you can even imagine. Some school districts would just love to have a few of these accomplishments, and we have so many. So there's a lot to be thankful for.
Do we have any minute for Katie? For Kate? Okay. How about if you look at the camera and tell the audience what you want to tell them?
Okay.
So that's up to you now.
Well, I think we're really at a crossroads right now in our community. We have come together in the last year to do some amazing planning work for our facilities. And if we can move forward on this and reach every area of our district and make our schools the 21st century learning environments that our kids deserve, then great things are going to follow. I think it really shows an investment by the community in believing that strong schools make strong communities. And so we're thankful to have all the community support, and we want it to continue so that all of our students can become the learners that they need to be.
Okay, now on behalf of Katie, the great host, and John Karhoff, Michael Peterson, and all the staff of the Public Access TV, we thank you very much.
Thank
we are
you.
grateful
Thanks, Katie.
for this wonderful evening. And we are going to be on Monday, 7 o'clock, Public Access TV, that's channel 18 if you have cable. If you don't have cable, you can find us on the Public Access TV website. You can find us on YouTube, many places, as well as your own channel, 21, usually every other night or every night after the school board meeting. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Honey.
And thank you, our audience, and have a very good evening.